good afternoon, wherever you're following us from. We'd like to say welcome from Monrovia, Liberia, on the grounds of the Capitol building in the chambers of the Liberian Senate. This is the much anticipated and postponed confirmation hearing of Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti, Foreign Minister Designate of the Republic of Liberia. She was nominated by President Joseph Boakai recently, and her confirmation hearing was due last week. She came, and due to overcrowdedness and what the committee described as security breach, she could not be heard by the committee as part of a confirmation proceeding, and so it was postponed to today. My name is Aaron Kuban. Spoon TV assigned reporter here at the Liberian Senate, and we've been bringing you several confirmation hearings. Earlier today, we had the Health Minister Designate, Dr. Louis Otto. Just before this hearing was the EPS, the Executive Protection Service Director, Sam Gay, who came here for his confirmation hearing too as well. And so we are still here. Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti is already seated in the seat where most of the nominees have sat and been cross-examined and quizzed by the senators from different committees. This confirmation hearing is being conducted by the Senate Foreign Relations or Foreign Affairs Committee. And so Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti, unlike the when she came here first, when this entire chamber was engulfed with a lot of people from different walks of life, and ambassadors and former ambassadors, dignitaries, permanent Liberians who came here, today is quite different. We see the senators are seated, even though there are some vacant seats, but that does not mean anyone can sit in those seats. Obviously, we will have a repeat of what happened when she came here. And so you can see the Foreign Minister Designate, Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti, is here. And so she came actually with entourage, but not as compared to the first day when she came. All those gentlemen in the blue-looking coat came along with individuals standing, two other persons there, and I see Christopher Odolunga, the owner of Cool FM, also came along for the first day. He's here again as well. All of these other individuals are also part of this entire entourage of Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti. And across the arc there, where you have the gallery, which is just divided by a glass, is where you have the journalists and you have other onlookers. Usually they come and sit and watch when there is a session. And but today, I believe most of those people who are out there are here as sympathizers, friends of Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti, relatives as well are here. She comes from the African Liberation League, a political party that contested for the presidency in the just heard 2023 elections. So Senator Abraham Darius Dillon of Monrovia County is the chairman of this committee. He is going to chair this committee. We see he's seated next to Senator Sir Joseph of Monrovia County. So the two senators from Monrovia are seated here. I see Senator Sir Joseph has some documentations. We say it's intended for this confirmation. Not yet, because it's not confirmed. We see former pro-tem, immediate past pro-tem, Abbott Tukwechi is here. Daba Vabla of Grand Cape Mount County also here. We also have Madam Boto Kane, who just arrived. So the chairman will call this confirmation hearing. See what
Distinguished colleagues of the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Madam Nominee, distinguished colleagues of the Senate, distinguished guests, welcome to the confirmation hearing of our Foreign Minister Designate, Madam Sara Beysolow Nyanti. Today being Monday, 5th February 2024, at about this hour in the chambers of the Liberia Senate. As we proceed, we will ask for opening prayer from the chaplaincy of the Liberia Senate.
Honorable Presiding, distinguished senators, Madam Minister Designate, this afternoon we will read from the book of Psalm, chapter 23, verse 1 and 2. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He restoreth my soul. This afternoon I want to share on the theme, be resolved to serve. Madam Minister Designate, if you will be confirmed, I urge you to be resolved to serve. When we read Daniel chapter 1 and 2, we see Daniel was able to explain the mystery because he was resolved to serve. He refused to eat from the king's tables because he knows that when he eats from the king's table, he was not going to really deliver the good that he should deliver as a servant of God. That you'll be serving our country in one of those high-profile ministry, which is the foreign ministry, if confirmed. So I urge you this afternoon to be resolved to serve. Stand and ask God to give you all the wisdom to serve. Without God, you will fail. Like George Washington said, and I quote, "It is impossible to rightly govern the world without God and the Bible." Take the Bible to be your word, to be the word of God that you will always go to gain wisdom and understanding to lead that aspect of our country, the foreign ministry. I pray that God will help you to do so. May you put country interest first, not personal interest. Put your countrymen and women interest first, not personal interest. Put humanity first as you will serve. May God help you to do so. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for today. We give you the glory and honor, of God. We pray for our great men and elders of our time at the gate as they have come, Lord. Give them the wisdom. Give them the understanding. Give them every necessary question, oh God, that they need to give. That God will inquire much better to do the right thing. In Jesus' name we pray.
Thank you, Mr. Chaplain. So this will be the order of the proceedings today. After these opening prayers, there will be the administering of the oath to the nominee, after which there will be welcome remarks made by the chairman of this committee, your humble servant here. After which, before then, there will be self-introduction of committee members and distinguished senators. Then the nominee will present a statement, a vision statement. There will be interactive question and answer period. I wish each senator will have 10 minutes to engage with the nominee. You can exhaust your 10 minutes or not. And if we deem as appropriate as chair, we can extend the 10 minutes. And then there will be a conclusion, a concluding statement on behalf of the committee that will be made by the chairman. And then there will be discharge of the nominee by the sergeant at arms, and there will be benediction. So again, welcome to this confirmation hearing of the Foreign Affairs Minister Designate. And at this point, we will take the oath of office, not oath of office, but administering the oath to the nominee by the sergeant at arms.
I do solemnly swear that the testimony I'm about to give and my recollection is the truth, nothing but the truth. So help me God. Mr. Chair, member of the committee who is qualified.
Thank you. If there is no availability of seats, we will not entertain people standing up in the chambers. So you either go up in the gallery or you excuse the chamber who want perfect decorum and Saturday in this chamber. We will have some introductions by senators, members of the committee, followed by distinguished senators who are here for this hearing, beginning with our colleague on the far right.
My name is Sara Beysolow, Senator of Monrovia, member of the committee.
Albert Chair, member of this committee.
Madam Bodo-Kane, representing the people of Bantam County.
My name is Jonathan Bochas, Sobe, represent the people of Liberia.
My name is Nathaniel following the oath.
My name is Wellington Tifon Smith, and I represent Riverside County and I chair the Senate Committee on Agriculture, Forestry, and Fishery.
My name is James Lebo Brown, and I represent Maryland County in the Senate.
Wesley Milton Finley, Senator from Grand Bassa County and also a member of Foreign Affairs
Senator Joseph K. Jala, Senior Senator of Lopa County.
My name is Momo Tanquil Saras. I chair the National Security Defense Committee in the Senate, and I'm from Lopa County.
I'm Senator Sai Joseph, Senator of Monrovia County, and co-chairman to the committee.
So I'm Abraham Darius Dillon. I'm humbled to be the chair of this committee. And we'll proceed. Statement by welcome, remarks by the chair. Madam Nominee, welcome to this confirmation hearing. We want you to relax and answer the questions as best as you can to the best of your ability. From time to time, you will interact with senators. We want your answer to be informed by the fact that you are on an oath. We want you to give us your vision, your plans for the sector you are about to occupy should you be confirmed by the Senate. We know that the foreign mission and the foreign relations of our country is challenged. We are aware of that. And that is why the President of Liberia has nominated you to see how we can go together to fix it. We would like to hear your vision for the sector, what your assessment is of the sector, and what your vision, your plans are to take it from where we are to something more credible and workable. So on behalf of the committee, welcome, and let's get the job done. Before we turn over to you to present your statement, we'd like to recognize the coming of our colleagues who just joined us. And we'll give them the opportunity for self-introduction, beginning with my colleague from the community.
My name is Sara Beysolow, Senator from Buffalo County and Chairman on the Public Accounts and Politics Committee, member of this committee.
Tyler, Senator Tyler.
Okay. Alex Tyler, Bowman County.
Edmund Stowe, Bowman County, member of Foreign Relations Committee.
So, Madam Nominee, as part of our procedure and processes here, after you shall have presented your statement, we have senators interact with you, and the manner of procedure is that senators who are members of the committee will be recognized first to speak, after which our distinguished senators will also be a part of this. That is the procedure set by the committee, and that's how we proceed as such.
Greetings, Honorable Chair and distinguished members of the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, and to all the senators here, I greet you. And I am grateful for the opportunity to sit before you today. It is with profound sense of honor and humility that I sit here, deeply grateful for the trust and confidence placed in me by His Excellency Joseph M. Walker, President of the Republic of Liberia, for this significant nomination that I don't take for granted as the Minister of Foreign Affairs designate. Getting to the place to have this nomination is a story of a journey that seems less traveled, but might be familiar to many. Many saw the glory of me rising to become the third Liberian ever, after Madam President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf and Winston Tubman, to serve at the level of UN Assistant Secretary General, but the first Liberian to have held the coveted triple portfolio of Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General, UN Resident Coordinator and Head of the UN Development System, as well as a separate title of Humanitarian Coordinator. The triple portfolio, which is very rarely held, and I'm the first Liberian to hold that portfolio. That is a profile that every leader operating at the director's level in the UN only dreams of holding. Everybody wonders whether or not they'll be Assistant Secretary General before they leave the UN. And I say it's a dream because truly it's a dream. It's very hard to achieve. In every dream that I've ever had in my life, I never believed that I could even be country representative for a UN agency. Never thought it was possible. I definitely never dreamed that I could represent the Secretary General as the UN Resident Coordinator. But to reach the level I reached, to have that triple portfolio and Assistant Secretary General, was definitely for me the impossible made possible. The impossible dream was because of a broken pathway and very difficult beginning. My story is not one of roses. It's not one of cherries. It's one where after graduation from CWA, I went to Cuttington, I attended Cuttington, and had to go to the US. My parents were convinced that war was coming, although we didn't see it. And going to the US, I went there as a child, a young person without status, moving from place to place, entering school, dropping out because I was pregnant. Very difficult beginnings. But I stand before you today after those difficult beginnings to say to you that I am a story of triumph out of adversity. I'm a story of what is possible for every Liberian girl. I'm a story of what is possible for every Liberian child. When I finally got status in the US at TPS, after moving to 4 different states because of not having status, I was able to complete Georgia Medical Institute, become a medical assistant, a registered medical assistant, and to be blessed to have served a doctor who decided that this Liberian girl who didn't have all that she needed, he would train her from the ground up. And he took me under his wings and trained me as a nurse. I went to surgery with him. I did ultrasounds. I managed the patients for him. I was like a mini doctor. And with that, I was able, after becoming a single mother with 2 babies, and after having so many difficulties socially, I was able to now take care of my children. And that put me in a situation where I wanted to just do more. And I decided I would start to collect medical equipment. I would start to collect medical supplies to send to Liberia because I didn't want to be in America. I wanted to be home. And I did that. And in doing that, coming to follow one of the shipments that I sent of medical supplies to Liberia, I met Dr. Peter Coleman, who said, "You're so young and eager to come home. Everybody running from Liberia, you're running to Liberia, we have crisis." And I said, "I just want to be home. I just want to be home." And he said, "Okay, but you can work at the Ministry of Health." And I first served as a special assistant. And then there was a gap at the National AIDS Control Program because I had the clinical experience working with patients and so forth, and including STI, reproductive health, and HIV and AIDS. I was given the chance to head the AIDS program. And that was the beginning of a journey to where you find me today. In heading that AIDS program during the time of crisis, if you can remember, at that time, almost everybody was running away. Very few people stayed. And at that time, I wrote the proposal for the Global Fund for Liberia, the first ever Global Fund proposal that was funded for this country. And money was coming to Liberia, no money was coming from anywhere else. No funding was coming to Liberia. We were going to get almost $8 million for the AIDS program to get people on treatment. And I was the only one dealing with Geneva to get that funding to Liberia. And then World Wars I, II, and III broke out. And they were looking for me, how to get the funding to Liberia. And finally they realized they could not give the money to the government after we fought so much because of our situation. They were giving the money to the United Nations because we're a conflict country. And the United Nations headhunted me, looked for me, sought me out so that I could manage the grant that I had written. And that's how I joined the UN. And in that crisis period, I worked along with the other teams that I worked. We all worked together. I led the team, but everybody worked. And we made a name for Liberia. And I went to Germany to present on what we had achieved in conflict Liberia. And I was headhunted to go to Nepal. I was headhunted to go to Nepal temporarily to rescue their grant that was in trouble because they also were in conflict. And at that point, I realized that if I wanted to grow in the UN, I had to go back to school. Because to get an international position in the UN, I had to have an advanced degree. Honorable Senators, the UNESCO listed schools. That's what I looked for. Identified Andrew Jackson University. And I worked and went to school, and thanks for my husband, Sara Beysolow Nyanti, of 23 years, who helped to take care of the children while I was working and doing schooling all through the night. And I was able to complete with all the training I already had, with all of the experiences I had. I was able to do a master's program directly, completed it, and it qualified me to apply for a fixed-term international position in the UN. And I started at the low level, and I grew from there. To grow in the UN is not about additional degrees. To grow in the UN is about delivery of results. It's about performance. And I continue to grow in the UN because everywhere I was sent, I went with a promotion. Every position I held, my next goal was a promotion. And growing with those successes, I grew rapidly. And at the point where I was in Yemen, and I was managing the largest portfolio for UNICEF in the world, over $1 billion. At that point, when I had achieved the results, the question was, what do I do next? In fact, somebody asked me, where do you go next? And I wanted to be given the opportunity to become UN Resident Coordinator, head of the UN system. That's not something you go for new degrees to do. That's something you compete with people from around the world. I'm proud to tell you that in the group of 126, we went through different cycles of assessments. We're narrowed down to 54. Then we're narrowed down to 24. 24 sent to England for an independent assessment on a farm in England. I'm proud to say to you, a Liberian woman came one out of only 13 out of that 126 who qualified to serve as the Secretary General's representative in the country. And I was immediately posted back to Nepal as the head of the UN. I share this with you because it's very important. Why does this journey matter for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Throughout my journey, it has been about the delivery of results and increasing responsibilities with every move that I made. The international community does not can't promote based on your tribe or who knows you. For coveted positions that are global positions where people are fighting for, nobody will give it to you because you are a Liberian woman. In fact, people believe you shouldn't even have it because you are a Liberian woman. I was once told in Yemen there are 5 strikes against you. You're African, you're black, you're a woman, you're a Christian, you're imperialist. You will never succeed. I come with the tenacity and the resilience that I've demonstrated over the years in the United Nations, serving at the highest levels, conducting development diplomacy, humanitarian diplomacy. Greetings. As I was saying, conducting development diplomacy, humanitarian diplomacy, it is not something about going to work in the morning and working on papers and signing documents. It's about skill sets in negotiating access and space and ensuring and build relationships that transform nations. That's what I've done. I would like to share with you 3 experiences that are relevant to what we have in Liberia today. At a time where we had over $1 billion portfolio in Yemen, and about 347 million going just to one ministry, and the corruption was rife, and donors did not want to continue funding the operation. And I was being threatened not to change the operation because they wanted things to remain the way they were. I took upon myself to go underground to look for Abdul Malik al-Houthi, the head of the Iran-backed Houthis, to look for him. And I looked for him because I wanted to ensure he was aware that we would not stop funding the children of Yemen, but we had to ensure that we stopped corruption and make sure that we plug the leakages. I did that. And for 1 or 2 hours of that day, I was underground. Nobody in this world knew where I was. Going from car to car, being changed in Yemen, and you know what Yemen is. Trusting people I did not know to get me to where I needed to get to save the resources for Yemen. I did that. I did not meet Abdul Malik al-Houthi, but I met Abu Makfoub, his chief of staff. And in my hijab and abaya, I said to him, I've taken this risk because I want to ensure that the children of Yemen, the resources that are coming in here from the donors, that they're used with accountability and transparency. In addition to that, beyond that, he helped me and were able to solve the problems we have with corruption and the leakages we had at a particular ministry. When donors still felt that the leakages were plenty and they were not sure and they wanted to stop the funding to Yemen, I stood as the head of the delegation. I went to Brussels, where capitals converged in Brussels to discuss the geopolitical situation and discuss the fact that we have to stop all funding to Yemen. I represented the voice of the international community in Yemen at the time and proposed a mechanism where donors would be trusting us with their resources, where we would guarantee them the resources will continue to come, and we would risk them and control their resources in a way where we would guarantee it was not being followed into a war economy. When I went to Nepal, at that point, warring parties could not sit at the table, an issue of transitional justice. And I had to employ a strategy to ensure that we continued to work on the human rights agenda and to work on the issues that were critical to the international community to continue funding. I was able to get warring parties around the table and bring the international community, all ambassadors, around in action to ensure that we resolve the issues. When I left Nepal, conflict victims were getting reparation for the war in Nepal, with the support of all of the ambassadors who joined that effort. Lastly, I will share with you in South Sudan. The things that we look at trivially sometimes in our part of the world are not the way things are viewed internationally. When you are the head of an international entity, and upon assumption of your duties, you are told that the person who's responsible for humanitarian operation, that you're responsible for your counterpart, has been accused of abuse of humanitarian workers, has been accused of beating his wife publicly, and embassies have stopped having females dealing with him. and you have funding that's being held up because of him. I implemented and initiated humanitarian diplomacy action, bringing all ambassadors together, co-chaired by the Dutch, subsequently co-chaired by the United States, working with the U.S. State Department, with the White House, with the African ambassadors, with the AU, making sure that we work on a geopolitical, transnational issue. And I'm proud to say, what people may downplay as something around sexual exploitation or sexual harassment was something that I did as a Liberian woman that saved women and girls and children. And in addition to that, it safeguarded resources for the humanitarian operation in South Sudan. The situation with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs may sound different to you, but so similar in terms of the roles I've had and the work I've been able to do. I was part of the transitional team, and I was fortunate to be part of the reports team and fortunate to want to see some of the documents and so forth. And the challenges at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I cannot say the transitional team was able to collect everything, but in general we could see the challenges, the issues that were raised by staff, issues that were raised as it relates to foreign service, issues around leakages and systems cracks when it comes to passports, issues around capacity, issue around funding. All of these issues, I come to the table not only with the education necessary for it, but with the experience, the capacity, and the suitability for the role. I've served other countries, helping to develop other countries. I've helped to transform the agenda of the UN in other countries. I've helped to change operations, and I've done things that are now being used as example in other countries around the world. I did it for others. What do you think I'll do for my own children? What do you think I'll do for my own women, my own men, and my own boys of Liberia? I will do even more. And so if you, honorable senators, give me the opportunity, I want to guarantee you that I will work very hard to ensure that the many challenges faced by the Foreign Ministry are addressed by us together. I want to assure you that with the excellent capacity we have around the world, seasoned, wealth of experience of ambassadors and others in foreign service, including those at home, working with them to identify solutions in terms of how we can ensure that we have a streamlined, reformed, transformed foreign service. I will work hard and diligently to strengthen Liberia's foreign relations with its strategic partners, to include nations and international organizations. But looking beyond the normal, I don't want you to confirm me to be a manager, to be a minister. I want you to look at my experiences, my capacity, to confirm me to be a transformational leader, one who would take the foreign ministry as I've taken other assignments, where I was paid triple what I will be paid now. But the heart with which I will do it will be triple, because it's my own home. I left the UN. I left the UN in 2023 at a time where I had not planned to. I knew when I was posted to Nepal that I would leave the UN early. I wanted to leave the UN early. I had said I would come by 2026, 2027, and my leaders all knew that I wanted to come home. When you've had a situation where for almost 40 minutes, nobody in the world knows where you are, you're surrounded by a mob of armed Yemenis, and you're suffering post-traumatic stress disorder. When you've had serious issues where you're given the toughest responsibilities, you're tired. You're tired. I wanted to come home. But I was being promoted. Who wouldn't want to be Assistant Secretary General? I took the promotion. But I decided I wanted to be Reverend Doctor before I come home, because I wanted to come home and work very hard on nation building, and I wanted to have a doctorate. And so I decided in 2020 to go back to school, not for the UN, but for me. And I wanted to do a doctorate, looking at different schools where I could do a doctorate. And it was advised to me, why don't you, since you've been out of school for so long, do a full continuum? And so I went back and I did a bachelor's in administration with a focus on management. I did a master's in management and leadership concurrently, simultaneously. And then right now I can tell you I've collected all of my data. I'm doing the analysis. And by the next 6 months, I will be Reverend Dr. Sara Beysolow Nyanti. I will be Reverend Dr. Sara Beysolow Nyanti with a doctorate in transformational leadership that I've been working on for the past 2 years. Sirs, transformation is not about what we see and what things have been in the past in Liberia. Transformation is about what's happening in the world out there and how we bring it home. Transforming our thinking, transforming our health system, transforming our education system. Everything is online now, innovations, technology. Things have changed, and Liberia must change with it. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs will be critical for that to happen. Mobilizing resources to ensure that it happens. Mobilizing resources to ensure that you partner with other ministries, partner with your colleagues, to convince donors to bring their funding to Liberia. The Liberia will not be the Liberia of old, but Liberia will be the Liberia of tomorrow. I hope to share with you here a vision, a one-page vision with your permission. I hope to share with you so we can look at it. The vision includes strategic foreign service and foreign relations, rebranding Liberia, safeguarding identity, creating an enabling environment for investments, capacity building, staff welfare, and I look forward to engaging with you on the details. Honorable Senators, this for me is not about a job. When I left the UN, I left because of cancer. When confronted with cancer, diagnosed in July 2023, I said to myself at 55, I only have 15 years left of my life. If I spend it outside, that's all I'll be known for. Excellent work in other countries. And so I decided to come home and be a part of a transformation agenda. That's what this is about. It's about service. I want to serve, and if I'm confirmed by you and given the chance to serve, I will serve to the best of my ability. Today, I'm cancer-free because I had access to early detection and early treatment. Today, I'm cancer-free because I had access to resources. I want to work with the Minister of Health to make sure every girl and every woman will have early detection and even have prevention so they will never go through the 3 surgeries I went through to be sitting here today cancer-free. I didn't leave the UN because I was asked to leave. I left the UN because I wanted to serve my country. On July 18th, I was asked to come back. Only 2 weeks after early retirement, I was asked to come back. I turned the job down. On November 14th, again, I was asked to come back. I turned it down. I said, with a caveat, if you allow me to work from Liberia. And I was told, no, the role we have for you cannot be done from Liberia. So I'm here to serve if you allow me to serve. And if given the chance, I will serve to the best of my ability. And together, if I'm given that chance, together you, as the Senate Relations Committee, the Foreign Relations Committee, with the team at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, with the ambassadors, with all of the hard-working foreign service individuals, the officers, we will make a difference for Liberia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is Sara Beysolow.
Thank you, Madam Nominee. We deliberately allow you to flow. Normally, we attach time to a presentation, but we deliberately allow you to flow uninterrupted, save for when the program has entered. At this point, having listened to your presentation, we'll open the floor to senators to interact with you. Each senator will have 10 minutes. The chair will determine whether they can go beyond 10 minutes. When you address the senator, is Mr. Senator or Honorable Senator or Madam Senator, so that we'll be on the safe side. So, and the pro tem is here, so you address the pro tem as well. At this point, we open this to question and answer, but as we lay the ground rule, members of the committee will proceed first, in keeping with our procedure, and then we will respectfully open up to our distinguished colleagues from the Senate. And members of the committee, Senator Abbott Chair.
This is a low price because I was noted for asking software. So I want to be relaxed. Sara Beysolow Nyanti, former UN Assistant Secretary General, first Liberian with triple portfolio in the UN system, United Nations Nepal, United Nations UNICEF Yemen, UNICEF Gambia, and so forth. It is said that when Liberians rise up to this position, they don't go back. Our fellow Liberians to give them the opportunity to serve in the system. That is, as we move up, before other Liberians. So you have all these portfolios. Can you tell us how many Liberians had the opportunity, like you gave the opportunity to work in the system you're working in? Please let's manage the time out. Few questions to ask, that's the point. So straight to the point.
I've had the opportunity to be able to recruit Liberians to work directly with me as my special assistant, and I've had the opportunity to support and mentor Liberians in the system. I've also had the opportunity to take Liberians, women, to South Sudan, to be able to promote them and to profile them in terms of their experiences here in Liberia. I have never participated in any action in terms of recruitment that was targeted at giving a Liberian a job, because that's not what the UN system is like. But I have supported Liberians, recruited Liberians where it was applicable, and supported Liberians in terms of promoting Liberian women.
Okay, let me go to my main question. ECOWAS, as the name implies, was established principally to promote the economic interests of its members. And Liberia is a member, as all of us know. We recall that in September 2021, there was a military takeover in Guinea, and ECOWAS imposed certain sanctions on Guinea. We also know that Liberia's economic interest is tied to Guinea, besides our strategic security interest. Guinea has one of the largest deposits of iron ore, worth billions of US dollars. And it is in Liberia's economic interest a cordial relationship between Liberia and Guinea exists, so that instead of Guinea carrying the iron ore to Conakry that would cost billions to build a rail, we can use our rail to Buchanan. And that discussion is going on. So it is important that the relationship between Guinea and Liberia becomes very cordial. For since the military takeover, we have seen the president of Sierra Leone, for example, engage the president of the head of the junta in Guinea. It's a relationship. But for Liberia, that relationship does not exist. How do you hope to handle that when you come when we confirm it?
Honorable Senator, thank you for the question. If I am confirmed, given the opportunity to serve, I would be advising His Excellency the President of the Republic of Liberia that we look at regional integration from a multifaceted approach. And one that is very important is the Monrovia Union. Within ECOWAS, we have the MRU. And the MRU block has been overlooked for some time in terms of the potential. Within MRU, there's much that we can do. And I would hope that if the President's vision is for that engagement, which I would believe it is, because he's focused on ensuring that he achieves the arrest agenda. And within the arrest agenda, overarching is the issue of economic viability for Liberia, taking Liberia into a new development trajectory, engaging with Guinea will be important. And so I would be looking forward to how we work together in the Monrovia Union to strengthen our relationships bilaterally, but also looking at multilateral perspective.
How will you balance the restrictions imposed by efforts and working with Guinea in the framework versus working with Guinea in the framework of the MRU?
Sierra Leone and Guinea have a pact. Sierra Leone and Guinea have a pact within which they operate. They have a bilateral pact. We do not have that pact as Liberia. And these are areas where we can engage. Ultimately, it's about Liberia's national interest. It's about what's best for Liberia's interest, what's best for the Liberian people, and that's what we'll be exploring if given the chance.
Last question is on the non-aligned movement. The non-aligned movement was founded in 1961 to advance the interest of developing countries, including the respect for sovereignty, equality, territorial integrity of all states, and so forth. The late President Talbot championed the cause and ideals of the non-aligned movement, for which our country was highly respected. Though you are not foreign minister yet, let me ask you, is Liberia still a member of the non-aligned movement?
Honorable Senator, Liberia finds herself in a situation where we have changing global dynamics. Things continue to evolve. Liberia has traditional allies, but Liberia is also making new friends. And those friendships are based on the interests of the Liberian people. Liberia is aligned with the Liberian people. And where Liberia will find means to develop this country, we will engage. Under my leadership, if I'm confirmed, we will engage in a way where we will have access to healthcare for our people, access to education, fulfill their rights. It's about Liberia and how Liberians can advance.
So, that is, you will encourage President Joseph Nwabaka to subscribe to the ideas of and implementation of the ideas of the non-aligned movement.
I would encourage, Honorable Senator, I would encourage President Joseph Nwabaka to engage in a way where we might identify a new movement. The Liberia First movement, the one that puts Liberia at the forefront. I would encourage him to engage in a way where we are respectful to our traditional allies, we deepen those relationships, but we forge new ones, seeking the interest of Liberian people.
What do you mean by traditional allies?
There are allies we have had from the time of our existence, and human since then. We've had allies like the United States. We have traditional allies like many of the countries in the West. But there's so many that are not traditional allies to us. They're ones that we don't even have strong relationships with or have not even engaged yet. And so, looking at the current global context with yourselves as the committee of this great Senate, and under the vision of His Excellency, Mr. President, we will be looking at where Liberia needs to start engaging, where Liberia needs to deeply engage, and where Liberia needs to disengage. That will be an exploration exercise that we will do together.
Thank you. We will go to Senator James Barney of Maryland County. Then from there, Senator Amara Connor of Buffalo County.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Get up.
Madam Nominee, it's a pleasure to have you.
1 minute, Senator Barney. Media for your people, a minute, Nominee has spoken. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Nominee, you are aware of the ongoing conflict between the Palestinians and the Israelis. Liberia supported Israel having its own country, existing as a nation, in other words. And ever since then, the Palestinians have not had a country to be referred to as a nation. Will you advise the president in a situation as is now where they are seeking to have their own country, for Liberia to vote for Palestinians to have their own country.
Honorable Senator, thank you for the question. I served in the Middle East. I lived in Jordan. And a few minutes down the road, I'm in Palestine. A few minutes down the road, I'm in Israel. And I've seen the situation firsthand. And I've spoken with Palestinians who have been in Jordan now for decades. It is a situation of grave concern, what's happening right now as it relates to Gaza, the human suffering. I believe that the sovereignty of nations remains. However, in a discussion where there is a possibility for a two-state solution, and a peaceful solution for all people, not for only some, I believe that we should be promoting peaceful solution for two countries to coexist.
Thank you. Quite recently, almost the entire world called for ceasefire between Hamas in the Palestinian controlled area and the Israelis on the other hand. The Americans did not support ceasefire. The Europeans abstained. African nations supported ceasefire, except Liberia. And as a result of the conflict continuing, thousands, not hundreds, thousands of innocent people lost their lives. Will you advise, if the opportunity exists again, that Liberia votes for a ceasefire?
Thank you, Honorable Senator. I would advise, as best as possible, Liberia being the oldest republic on the continent of Africa, should stand as an African nation. I believe Liberia, being a leader in Africa in the past, one who actually hosted a conversation about starting the OAU here in Liberia, one who's a signatory to the African Union, we have to take our place as Africans, and we have to look at how we support Africa to maximize her potential. This is the continent where all the wealth exists. If we stand together, the more we'll get out of this continent. And so Liberia should stand with Africa.
I consider that to mean if the African countries are supportive of ceasefire, Liberia should support that. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And I'm also saying further to that is the strength of Africa lies in Africans. And the African Union will only be as strong as we allow it to be. And we, as the oldest republic, should be seen as leaders in this regard.
Thank you. Quite recently, the Chinese sponsored a resolution at the United Nations, which the Chinese referred to as a resolution that will promote human rights. Many Western countries did not subscribe to that, believing that Chinese are not doing much in their own country as far as human rights are concerned. However, the entire African continent supported the resolution, with the exception of Swaziland in the middle of South Africa, and Liberia. Specifically, all the countries in West Africa supported the resolution. Liberia did not. And according to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Liberia was standing with its traditional ally. You mentioned traditional ally. If we are confronted with similar situation and our traditional ally or allies are standing opposite of a position that Africans take, where will you advise we go?
We are Africans, Honorable Senator. And if the African Union has one position, Liberia should be part of that one position of the African Union. We're Africans.
Thank you. I like that. My next question has to do with the war in Ukraine. Currently, there seems to be no end to the war in Ukraine because it's like diplomacy is not having its own impact on the war. A few days ago, NATO nations approved $50 billion in aid, mostly military aid, which in my opinion signifies a potential expansion of the war. And African countries have been concerned about ceasefire. Western countries believe that the Russians are encroaching on the sovereignty of Ukraine. Russia is saying when we try to establish Cuba as base for missiles, the Americans took offense. And if Ukraine is allowed to be a part of NATO, what that means is that Western countries, including America, will have the possibility of establishing missile foothold in Ukraine, few seconds from Russia. And for Russia, that is not possible. They're not going to sit and allow it. And so the war continues. And Western countries have installed a lot of missile protection mechanisms in Ukraine to protect installations in Ukraine. But because Russia is a superpower, they've been able to get around that to strike their targets. If Liberia continues to side with Western countries on this important thing, and that is not to suggest that the Western countries are not supporting us. They're supporting us in various means, various ways. But if the conflict potentially expands, and it has a potential to expand if diplomacy fails, and Liberia is seen as supportive of the side against Russia, such that Russia considers Liberia an enemy, it means Liberia is within striking distance of Russia. And so a lot of Liberians believe that is too much of big boss fight, and Liberia should play a neutral role. Do you agree with that?
Firstly, thank you, Honorable Senator. And firstly, I would like to say that the war with Russia and Ukraine should remind Liberia that we don't have time to waste. Because the war with Russia and Ukraine has demonstrated that you can go hungry. People can die of hunger within months, if not taken care, because we don't have the systems that are resilient enough to be able to ensure that our food balance sheet is sufficient and has the reserves to be able to feed our people in difficulties. I'd just like to register that in terms of what these wars mean to us as Liberians and why we should be really concerned about them. Also, at the end of the day, we should spend our time focused on how we make sure that we are resilient, that we are protected, that our national security is prioritized, and that we fund all of the systems necessary to protect Liberia in the wake of others fighting. I believe very strongly, and of course it's the decision of the President of the Republic of Liberia, me only an advisor to him, I'll be advising him that we should be careful not to get involved in things that will distract us from focusing on the interests of our people. We should be focused on how we develop Liberia. We should be focused on how we make ourselves resilient. And we should be also seen as leaders, not only seen as leaders, but become leaders in speaking for peace. Sovereignty is very important. We are a sovereign nation, and we don't want our sovereignty imposed on home. We don't want it abused. At the same time, we should be voices for sovereignty, but I think we should remain focused on developing Liberia.
Thank you. I can't agree with you anymore. Before I go to my last question, I want to say when Liberia did not vote for the Chinese Human Rights Resolution of the United Nations, it impacted our country. I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. The overhead bridge project came to a complete standstill. Today we didn't benefit from that. The road project between 12th Street and Garnersville also came to a halt. And so I admire the fact that you are more concerned with what brings benefit to Liberia first. The last question to you has to do with sanctions. You are aware that our traditional allied Americans sanctioned some officials of government. And it was saying this is a pattern that will follow, most likely in this administration, if the Americans perceive some officials to be violative of established civilized norms, especially those ones that affect the people of our country. And so they may continue to follow that trend. As Minister of Foreign Affairs, if you are confirmed, and the Americans have information about people to consider to be corrupt or to be violative of our rules such that they come up with sanctions, will you, as minister, advise the president to request from the Americans what they have or they would have as evidence to sanction Liberians, or the fact that it's from our traditional allies? Once they come up with it verbally, it will be sufficient reason for us to act. What will you advise? That's my last question.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. It's important to note that one of the biggest problems we have faced as Liberia is corruption. It's a problem that is eating away at our very existence. As it stands now, in terms of our budget, or how it has been, we continue to rely on international community to fund our health services, to fund our education services, and so forth. And the tension between them providing the funding for these things and the acts of corruption makes it very difficult, and that's where we together have to work, especially this new administration, to make sure that we are preventing these issues. We are dealing with issues ourselves, strengthening the legislature for accountability and transparency, managing those. I think it's important for us to have conversations around what we can do to prevent in the future, so that together we work with our partners, demonstrate that we are able to handle our own systems in terms of accountability and transparency, rule of law, making sure that where possible, where necessary, there's prosecution. If we demonstrate that, we'll have less and less of what we've been facing. I believe we can, and I believe that it's a process of engagement with our partners, it's a process of discussion with our partners. But if I'm asked directly for a particular case, if there's information that's required that we feel is available somewhere else that we need as Liberians, we should ask for the information. And we should allow our national systems to work. We should build our systems to be resilient to deal with the issues, to avoid others coming in and having to be engaged with the issues that we should deal with.
So bottom line, you are for providing information leading to sanctions from our international partners.
No, that's not what I was saying. I was talking the reverse. I understood you to say if they have information, if we would ask for it. And I'm saying, yes, our systems should be strengthened so that we don't even get to that point.
No, you didn't get the question.
Okay, please clarify.
They will come up with sanctions based on their own investigation. And we are expected as a government to act. My question is, in your position, if you are confirmed, would you advise the president for us to access that information before we act? Or it is sufficient, once they come up with it, we must act? That's my question.
Thank you for clarifying. I will advise the president also to seek the information. To have the information, to understand what it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Arrest.
Thank you, Senator Barnes. You went well beyond your 10 minutes, but the chairman was using discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We will go to Senator Ahmad Akone. Then Senator Bertrand Garcia, then Senator Snow in our order.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Nominee, thank you for your opening remarks. I was really touched by them. And your story is the story of the Nigerian community. It's the story of so many immigrants who go abroad in search of opportunities and have to go through all kinds of challenges, to make it. And I'm glad that you didn't give up. I admire your resilience. I'm familiar with your work in Yemen when I served as the director of the World Bank Fragile State Unit at Global Hub in Nairobi. At the time, the Yemenis were going through their crisis. I had to work with my team to program $200 million that we could not deploy because we couldn't go there. But the World Bank policy of remaining engaged required us to deploy the money. And the board approved that we should do so to UNICEF. And I learned later that you put that program together. So I have no doubt in your competence. I have a few questions for you. I want to look inward because my colleague, Senator James Barney, has asked all of the questions that I have, but I want to come more. You are, if confirmed, going to be inheriting a troubled agency or ministry. It is a ministry that needs leadership at home and also leadership for our foreign missions abroad, some of whom are currently operating without heat in countries that have winters. Some of our staff abroad have been evicted from their homes, from their apartments, because of the lack of payment. Domestically, we keep hearing about the abuse of our diplomatic passports. My question to you is, have you had time to really look at the culture and the politics of this troubled institution you are inheriting? I have no doubt in the structural competency which you have shared with us. But I want to hear from you a little bit about what do you know about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, culture, and politics?
Thank you, Senator. And please allow me to just make a comment on your opening statement because it touched me. That was a very, very critical time of my life where I was given 3 days to leave from the Gambia, where I was head of UNICEF, to be in Jordan to set up a system from scratch to pay cash benefiting 9 million people. And to know that Liberia was on the other end, part of the money that we received for me to do that work became something you were involved with. I'm proud. So just wanted to mention that. The issue of the ministry, the challenges of the ministry, we have some information that we obtained during the transition process, data gathering and so forth, but it's insufficient. The information is insufficient to conclusively state here today that I know everything about the ministry. I would have to go into the ministry, work with the senior leaders, work with the ambassadors, engage all of them to get a deeper understanding of the issues in order to be able to come back to you, engage with you all as well. Many of you here have even more information than I do. You have more experience than I do as it relates to the culture of the ministry. And together, all of us, I will be coming back to you with this finding and discussing with you proposed solutions so that together we can support each other for those reforms. If I can just touch specifically on the issue of evictions and the issue of funding to foreign services, one of the things that came up very loudly, and it's one of the things I've seen also as I travel where there are Liberian missions. We have to work in a way where those who are placed out there to represent the country are supported. They need to be given the support because they are the face of Liberia in those countries. They cannot be the ones who are out there begging for food or begging for money or begging for heat. It's very difficult. And I believe with the Minister of Finance, and with the blessing of the President, we can look for new ways in which we can have advanced funding, quarterly allotments, ensuring that missions don't have to struggle for resources. It will also require for me to do a lot of work to raise funding as well for things that have to do with capacity building and so forth, so that we streamline the ministry in a way. We streamline the foreign service in a way where we are efficient, we're strategic, and we're funding what is necessary. That's also very important, looking at where we need to be, what needs to be there, who needs to be there, and then making sure we have value for money in terms of what we're spending in foreign service. But we have to support our foreign service officers and ambassadors who are doing a phenomenal job representing Liberia out there.
Thank you. The passports. We've received, we've heard so many reports about the abuse there, the rent-seeking behavior of those who have been entrusted to issue our passport to Nigerian citizens. Do you think it's about time that we consider changing our passports to start on a clean slate under the leadership so that we address this illegal proliferation of our passports?
Honorable Senator, thank you for that question, and please allow me to just share with you an experience that I had, my husband and I, in Kathmandu. In Kathmandu, that is landlocked, you would have to choose to go to Nepal if you wanted to go there. And even at that, the time it will take you to get there is long. We encountered 3 individuals with Liberian passports. But because we knew the region, we knew one was a Ghanaian, one was a Nigerian, and only one was a Liberian. All 3 of them had Liberian passports. When we talked to the Ghanaian and Nigerian, they had never been to Liberia. But they had our passports. So I know firsthand about the situation of our passports. I encountered it as far away as Nepal. And so I believe that we should be looking together at what needs to be done. One of the options is looking at changing our passport. But I do not know, as I sit here today, if it is the best option. And even if it is the best option, it requires resources, timing. And so I would ask your permission, if I'm confirmed, that you allow me to go and do an analysis with the team to understand the different options and engage with you on what's best for the country.
Thank you. I want to go regional and sub-regional, Monrovia Union, 4 countries, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone, combined population of around 24 million, and combined GDP of 80 billion. Our economy is the smallest economy in that economic bloc, sub-regional bloc. But the most constraining in terms of border crossing. From the Mano River Bridge crossing point for Sierra Leone to the San Pedro crossing point in Maryland with Cote d'Ivoire, we have close to 100 checkpoints across the country. Now, this is domestic, but it's constraining our ability to trade with our neighbors that are closer to us, that give us the opportunity to expand our economic possibility frontier so that we can expand our economy given the size of our population. How are you going to work with the other 3 countries, leveraging the success of the economic program in the infrastructure sector with the Transco, CLSG, Cote d'Ivoire, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, electricity transmission in a way that the lines not just passing over these villages and towns from Limba into Bassa, into Magidi, Monserrado, Bomi, Cape Mount, into Sierra Leone, but to attract sub-regional investment to come here and work with Liberians in a way that we can begin now to create local processing facilities in these counties to add value to our product. I think the Ministry of Foreign Affairs can play a role in that. Do you have any plan of making that an issue in the Monrovia Union to resuscitate it along the original vision of President Siaka Stevens of Sierra Leone, President Talbot of Liberia, and President Secretary of Guinea?
Thank you for the question. The handout I gave you, which is a very succinct, summarized version of the vision, talks about the need for strategic foreign service and foreign relations, and within that, looking at regional integration. The number of checkpoints we have between our countries, go from one to the next, is just not tenable in terms of our women who just trade, just simple trade. The cost of doing business, the barriers for trade in the sub-region, extremely unnecessary. We need to be looking at how to remove those bottlenecks and then elevating that to the need for definitely economic integration, making sure that we look at opportunities. Next door to us is Cote d'Ivoire. Cote d'Ivoire is one of the richest countries, I think in the top 15 on the continent. Yes. And we have not even begun to tap into the potential of Cote d'Ivoire. And if I'm given the chance, if I'm confirmed, one of the things that we propose to His Excellency, Mr. President, is that it should be his first state visit to Cote d'Ivoire. We should be engaging Cote d'Ivoire in a way where we demonstrate our respect for what they've been able to achieve. They are also post-conflict, but they've been able to ensure that they've taken the trajectory that we can be proud of. People talk about Rwanda, we should be talking about Cote d'Ivoire. And so I look forward to the opportunity to serve where we can make this a priority and we can leverage Cote d'Ivoire in that way and looking at regional integration and looking at how we boost economic possibilities for Liberia.
Thank you. Let me go to ECOWAS. ECOWAS is our regional bloc. 20 years ago, nearly all of the countries in ECOWAS were democracies. Today, that is receding. I think, if I'm correct, and to be corrected, you have about 4 or 5 countries that are under autocratic regime. And we are struggling to see democracy move on in Senegal. Does it concern you that this is happening in West Africa at a time when we here in Liberia are making progress with our fragile democracy in terms of whether what is happening in Guinea, in Burkina, in Mali, in Niger, somehow happen here? And if so, what can the foreign ministry do under your leadership to ensure that the issue of human rights, rule of law, which may not be directly under your purview, but are respected here at home to prevent something like that from happening?
Honorable Senator, one of the things that give me greatest joy in the last months and give me such pride to be a Liberian was our peaceful handover of power, our peaceful transition. I wept because of that pride and joy. I initiated something called Protect the Votes. I lobbied for Protect the Votes because I wanted to contribute meaningfully to our peace. And that's something we have that we can leverage as Liberians for our strategic position. That's something we have that we can use as an example in the sub-region. We just lost Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali in ECOWAS. That should concern everyone. And I think this is a perfect opportunity for a statesman like our president, President Boyka, to be able to engage with leaders in the remaining countries of ECOWAS, even engage with those who've left. It's not impossible that they will come back. And I believe it's very important for us to use our recent peace to demonstrate to West Africa that it is possible, that we are pushing for peace, and peace is the only way. And for Liberia, who has been known for being a country of war and hate and chaos, for us to rise up in this period to demonstrate that we can seek peace, peace should be our mantra, building on what former President George Weah did, and building on how he and President Boyka engaged to take us to where we are today. We should leverage them and Madam Sirleaf and ensure that we regain our position in ECOWAS, seeking peace and demonstrate that peace is possible, especially when you come from a country like Liberia where we have such a tumultuous history.
Thank you. The African Union, the continental organization that was really founded here at home in Senegal. I got 2 questions there. One, do you believe that it should be the policy of this administration, the Boyka administration, to pursue aggressively the UNESCO Heritage City status for Senegal, for the Senegal-Nimba County, where President Nkrumah, President Touré, and President Tubman signed the charter of the Organization of African Unity in that city, so that we can attract resources to transform it into a city that could potentially host AU meetings and maybe have some of the AU sub-organizations based there in order to create opportunities for our people. That's number one. I think it's about time. I want to know your view on that. My second question is, President Wakai should be heading to the AU summit, I believe, in the next few weeks or so. What message is he taking to the AU as Liberia's policy in that continental area? And what plans are there to settle our arrears there before we face embarrassment?
Thank you, Honorable Senator. In terms of the first question on heritage site in Sunny Quilly, I will not pretend as though I thought about it before. I had not. And as you spoke about it, I reflected and thought that's a brilliant idea. And it's something that we should champion, because I keep making reference to the fact that those meetings were held here, but we've done nothing to memorialize that and to take credit and ownership for that. We did not rush ahead to be intentional and take credit and ownership for the return of African Americans in Ghana to that and were left behind. We have to be intentional. We have to recognize where we have excelled, where we have done well, and leverage it for the growth and prosperity of Liberians. So yes, I do think it's a brilliant idea. In addition to that, we'll be Providence Island and move forward with that agenda for the UNESCO heritage site. And there's some conditions in relation to the road, to the bridge, and so forth. And those things will be discussed with several committees within the legislature and other ministries as well. But I believe we should be pushing that agenda for the payments due. It's about 800,000 due to the African Union in order for us to have speaking rights. Imagine the oldest republic on the continent cannot speak. We don't have a voice at the African Union because we have Jews. That is something that's being prioritized so that when President Wakai goes to the African Union, he can be able to engage out. I am given the chance to serve, if I'm confirmed by you. That's something I'll be prioritizing, making sure that we reposition Liberia in our recent peace and our recent decision as a people that we will not go back to war, and to be an example of what it can be. And so using that opportunity to engage and looking for opportunities for us to share our experiences as well. Other countries can learn from Liberia, making Liberia a model for democracy in this century.
Thank you for that. I have two more questions. I'm going outside of Africa now. The United States is our oldest traditional partner. There seems to be no clear strategic.
Senator, our corner is proceeding beyond his 10 million in discretion of the chair. Proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you. Madam Nominee, the U.S. is our oldest partner, and we know that that partnership, really the strategic thing that drove that was the Cold War at some point, and then the Cold War ended. We got into a messy war, and later on they came back and together with ECOWAS helped us to restore peace. But I think that relationship now is a big brother, small brother type of relationship. I think we need to change that. I think we need a new strategic direction of the relationship between the United States and Liberia. And will you care to let me, to tell us really in your rebranding how you're going to handle that, so that we can change the mindset from Liberia being America's stepchild. You talk about sovereignty, and I think this is what we can demonstrate that, so that there is accountability in the relationship. And I think one example is the MCC, where you deliver, you get, versus hand out. And we thank them for what they're doing. The European Union is also an important partner. China. Do you mind telling us how you're going to navigate, in addition to what Senator Bani put out there on the development side, on the bilateral side, the relationship between Liberia, the U.S., China, the European Union, and so on and so forth?
Thank you for the question. The United States of America is the United States of America. Arguably the greatest country in the world. And I think we as Nigerians are fortunate to have the special relationship we have with the United States. And I shared earlier that I know that the United States, the EU, and some traditional allies have invested so much in basic social services that if they had not, those systems would have collapsed. And we should be grateful for that. But I think we should want those relationships to be transformed into relationships of sister relationship, siblings relationship, where it's not parent and child, but we are standing side by side. And that's why the SDGs are so important, the Sustainable Development Goals. The SDGs say that no one country has achieved it all. Every country has needs, every country has development needs, and I think we should have relationships that are mutually beneficial. Relationships where we help each other. It's not just about receiving handouts. Handouts will never develop Liberia. Foreign direct investment, the private sector is what's required, and working with these countries to ensure that we create the enabling environment for foreign direct investment is the way to go. And we'll only do that if we demonstrate our readiness to create that enabling environment by opening up opportunities for people to come to Liberia, removing some of the visa restrictions, ensuring that we have some countries that don't need visa or some that get visa on arrival. We will never boost tourism. We will never have that tourism sector reach its potential if we don't create that enabling environment. So I believe working with the US, the EU, China, and other countries, this is an opportunity for us to stand up and say, we are ready to be partners. We want to be partners, we don't want to be beggars. And we are ready to invest our own resources, and you come along and help us to do this. We take the lead, and we own our own destiny. We chart our own course with their support. But we should move away from this thing of aid dependency, because we'll always remain in this situation if we continue to walk that line.
Thank you. And my final question, Mr. Chairman. I want to close by thanking you for your service to humanity across the world. I'm aware of your work in South Sudan, where you work hard and really protected young girls and women. I think most Liberians don't know that. So I just would like to close by saying that that was courageous, what you did there to fight a human trafficking ring and expose it and was able to bring it down. I hope that you will work with the gender ministry here and share that experience with them, with the health ministry, because human trafficking, particularly trafficking in children and girls, is a big issue in our country. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Senator Forrest, was that a vote?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, that wasn't a vote. We don't vote here.
Thank you. Senator Thiele, then Senator Smoke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. Nominee, thank you for showing up. Mr. Chairman, I respectfully submit no question.
Thank you. Yay.
Senator Smoke.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Nominee. Let me start by commending you for a very impressive presentation, and to also state that I'm very impressed with your credentials. It speaks volume, coupled with your experience. Thank you. Let me start. Madam Nominee, if confirmed, you will be a member of the ECOWAS Council of Ministers. Like some of my colleagues said, we are faced with a lot of problems in the sub-region. Economic, yes, but mostly security. What will you be doing? What are some of the engagements? Because if confirmed, you will be the third female foreign minister in the region, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and then if you are confirmed, joined by you, you will be joining them. What will be some of your new innovations that you think you can bring to this sub-region to get the region back on course? We have 4 of our member states that have left ECOWAS, or 3 left, and then 1 is on the verge, which is Guinea. You think there are any new things you can encourage His Excellency to do, starting with the Monrovia Union, with Guinea, and then going into Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger?
Thank you, Mr. Senator. Honorable Senator, apologies. I take the opportunity to confess to you that I've already worked on a 100-day plan. And in that 100-day plan, one of the things that I have reflected on is the need for foreign ministers of the Monrovia Union to have a meeting as soon as possible to discuss the revitalization of the MRU. And I believe that will pave the way to then having, which I hope Kodiva would agree to it on that first state visit I'm proposing for the President, to hosting a Monrovia Union Summit and ensuring that we engage from that point, trying to lift the Monrovia Union. I believe our President is a statesman. He's an elder statesman, respected because of his service, respected for the time he spent in governance and so forth. And I believe that with the countries that have left, there's room for him to engage. I believe that there's room for him to bring his knowledge and experiences to discuss how we can continue to work together in this sub-region. We may be able, I do believe and have faith that we could have ECOWAS coming back together again. It's not impossible, but I know that Liberia should be seen as a leader in trying to do so. And I believe that Liberia has a role to play, a critical role to play. And one innovation I'll be proposing is that we allow space for that kind of engagement, and that we allow space for us to look at how we co-create the ECOWAS that all want to see, and co-create what we need it to be for the next century, so that ECOWAS remains a vibrant example on the continent. Let me say to you, in places I've served on the continent, ECOWAS was seen as an example for SADC and others. They always cited the success of ECOWAS. And if ECOWAS fails, it means Liberia has failed. And we have a role to play. So that's something I'll be wanting to champion, Honorable Senator, to ensure that we reposition Liberia and our President to play a critical role.
Today, Liberia is the highest indebted country, $18.5 million United States dollars, receiving ECOWAS levy and not paying the money to ECOWAS. Can you assure us that you work with the Ministry of Finance to restore Liberia's dignity in the sub-region?
There's so much. Excuse me, sir. Honorable Senator, there is so much that has happened that has led to us having an image that's not the best. And there's a lot we can do. There's so many opportunities, and this is one of them. We need to pay our bills. We need to be responsible, and we need to be seen as leading the charge in terms of accountability to our brothers and sisters in the sub-region and around the world as it stands. And so I want to commit that if I'm confirmed, I will ensure I play my part with the Minister of Finance for us to live up to our responsibilities, to be accountable to our brothers and sisters in the sub-region and the continent and the world.
The war sees Liberia as pro-America, like the question from Senator Barney and others, where when the entire Africa is going one direction, Liberia most times going in the direction of the United States of America. I work in the sub-region. When I see my colleagues from the sub-region, from Sierra Leone, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Gambia, you see them in Nigeria, you see their passport, 5 years visa, 10 years visa. America have limited to this country, our citizens, as our traditional allies, to 1 year visa. Sometimes our people go on the ring at that American embassy. Stand on the ring 4 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. They either denied them outrightly or gave them a maximum of 1 year visa. Sometimes single entry, 1 year, or 3 months. They gave our former president, President Salim, 3-month visa entry to America. Is there anything you think you can do about it to change this narrative? That our Sierra Leonean brothers, Guineans, Ghanaians, Nigerians, America gave them 5 years visa in the passport. And they treat our Liberian people under the hustle and the rain for 3-month visa, 1-year visa. Can you think you can change that, or what's the cause of that?
Honorable Senator, is one of the things that I know for a fact is unnecessary. I went for a visa one time in the Gambia, and usually I would just get a G4 visa because of my role and so forth, but I wanted a personal visa. And I was told, we will give you multiple years visa, but we can't. And I asked, but why? They said, especially for your role, your sponsor will give you 5, 10 years, but you have a Liberian passport. And I asked, what's the problem with my passport? And it's the issue of reciprocity. We have to ensure that we, as Liberia, if I'm given a chance, if I'm confirmed, that we put in place a mechanism to ensure that we give visas in a way where we are expecting reciprocity. We should give, why do we not give the US 5-year visas? We'll not get 5 years from there, we don't give them 5 years. We are short-sighted when we look at collecting fees for every visa. We are short-sighted. We should be looking at the long-term vision. What is best for the citizens of Liberia? If we give the United States 10 years visa, they will change the 1-year visa for us. And I think that's something we need to discuss with you all as a committee. What are we willing to give in order for us to get? We have to work from that reciprocal perspective, making sure that we get the best interest of Liberians. Every time suffering Liberians go for a visa, it's $100 and something US. They can buy at least 8 bags of rice. It's not right, it's not fair, and we can do something about it. And so that's something I commit to. If I'm given the chance to serve, if you confirm me, I'll be working on that as soon as possible. It's very important for tourism as well. It's important for job creation, but it will reduce the burden on the average Liberian.
Thank you, Madam Nominee. Liberia, as a member of ECOWAS, a lot of Liberians use Ghana as a hub. For years now, we don't have an ambassador in Ghana. We don't have an ambassador in Senegal. The embassies are open, like this, some of our ambassadors have been thrown off for rent. They are not paid. I see one of the struggling ambassadors, and let me be a little personal with this, that I have some contact in Nigeria. I've represented this country for years, and there are times you go to the Liberian embassy in Nigeria, in Abuja, they have cut the water and lights. You have to go to hotels or other homes to work on his computer to represent Liberia. Can you assure us, in just a sentence, that as Minister of Foreign Affairs, you will change the narrative and rebrand this country?
Honorable Snow, Honorable Senator, I don't want to be held in contempt. I can guarantee you, if I am confirmed, that we'll look at strategic positioning of our ambassadors, putting our ambassadors in talent and wealth of experience in places where they will serve the economic interest and development interest of Liberia the best. You mentioned one ambassador. I worked with him before when I was in Nigeria. I served in Nigeria for 5 years. I was the one that intercepted the return of Patrick Sawyer's body to Liberia and ensured that it was cremated on that morning. And I served as one of the team leaders for management and coordination. I was the team lead for management and coordination for the Ebola response in Nigeria, considered the most successful Ebola response in the world, where I had the opportunity to help to educate and train Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone on the systems used in Nigeria in terms of the incident management system. I worked with Dr. Al-Hassan Conte, and I know the challenges the team in Nigeria faced in Abuja. I know what happened when we had the bomb blast of the UN house, and the effect it had on the Liberian embassy, which was walking distance from the UN house. And he did not have the resources that he needed to be able to deal with the impact it had on the embassy. It's not right. It's not fair. And so we should be supporting our best out there to do the best for the people. And it's all part of how we strategically position ourselves looking at who needs to be where. I want to bring that in as well. We have talent. Are they in the best places they're supposed to be in? Who needs to be in which countries? Which talent do we have that we need to maximize and leverage? And these are some of the things we'll be doing as we're looking at rebranding if I am confirmed.
And just 2 more interventions. I'll be finished, please. Over the years, rather, we saw witness drama in the foreign ministry. The minister traveling, he just read somebody say you're acting minister. Everybody said no, by law I'm supposed to be acting minister. If confirmed, you're traveling, who will act?
Honorable Senator, it will depend on who's in the country.
If all are in the country, who will act?
If all of them are in the country, the principal deputy would act.
Madam Nominee, lastly, from your credentials, your experience, and your presentation, I believe you are all overqualified for this job. Is there any other job you think you take?
When I was contacted on November 14th, the second time, being asked to come back to the UN for a position in Italy, I reflected and I asked myself, did I make a mistake in leaving early, coming back home? I said to myself, the people asked me in July, I told them no. They asked me again in November, maybe I made a mistake and we're trying to give me a second chance to go back. But I can tell you, as I sit here before you today, I would like you to give me the chance to serve as the Minister of Foreign Affairs. All of my experiences, all of my capacity, my skill sets, the people I know, and the places where I've served and delivered results for them, all of that I will bring to bear for the people of Liberia, working with you, working with the other ministers. And this is where I believe I will serve the President best, because that's what he decided.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Nominee. I'm done.
Senator Batikwa, Senator Jonathan Sewell, the chairman on Judiciary, Senator Augustine Chia, in our order. Oh, you get permission. No, 1 minute. We have a person here. Senator Butler from Cape County, then to Senator Batikwa, and then Senator Sewell in our order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Let me use this time to congratulate the nominee for her preferment. I have followed her work like many others in the room. I recall several years back when she was appointed as the Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General as a Liberian woman, and had that information went wild across Liberia. We were all proud people as women especially. And over the time, she has continued to demonstrate her capacity and her love for country by raising our flag in spaces that many of us have not been. Let me let you know in this room that I'm one of the women, about 8 women, young, middle age, in different fields, that were invited to the Women Transformational Conference in Juba, South Sudan. And at that place, we saw the nominee on the stage that we all were proud of. Thank you very much for always raising Liberia. And we are happy that you are back home. If confirmed, we pray that you will bring that same energy to Liberia or even more. I just wanted to know one thing, and it has to do with you. You left Liberia at a very young age. You struggled through the time to ensure that you have status to be permitted to do some things while you were in the U.S. Did he at any time acquire any other citizenship other than your Nigerian citizenship?
It may sound like a simple question, Honorable Senator. That's a huge question. I have 3 U.S. citizen children who could file for me if I wanted. And I intentionally chose, I don't want any other citizenship besides Liberian citizenship. I am a Liberian only and will remain a Liberian only till death.
Thank you very much for that clear answer. With that answer, let me again congratulate you for your preferment. The committee will be consulted after this hearing and we will take the decision. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam Nominee.
With the explanation of the chair.
Yeah, Senator Badikwa, after Senator Badikwa, we have Senator Sobwe. Madam Nominee, I'd like to inform you that in consultation with this committee, considering that time is fast spent, after the 2 senators that are about to engage with you, we will reschedule or continue this hearing when the committee decides later and will refer to you to the office of the Secretary of the Senate. Senator Badikwa.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Madam Nominee, and I join my colleagues who congratulated you for your nomination. Madam Nominee, I don't know whether you are aware, but you may not. The officials of government, one of the treatments that they have to show distinction is the passport that they possess, the diplomatic passport. I don't know whether you are aware that Liberia's diplomatic passport that is in the possession of officials of government. One of our friends that you refer to as our traditional ally, America, if you present your diplomatic passport to them, they have, because they devaluated it, so they will ask you, no, you can't take this passport to our country, you have to take an ordinary passport. What are your plans to ensure that our passport is again recognized, the recognition is restored?
Thank you, Honorable Senator. The issue of the passport and ensuring the dignity of the passport will come in with the management of the passport system and ensuring that the passport is treated in terms of strengthening all of the leakages and all of the issues that exist in relation to our passports getting out into the wrong hands. If I'm confirmed, I'm committed to ensuring hands-on as it relates to the passport. I'm committed to ensuring that me myself, if I'm confirmed, I'm committed to ensuring that I do not delegate a responsibility at least for a year, where I can be sure of where the diplomatic passports are going and making sure that the diplomatic passport is respected.
With the level of experience that you have contained in the present presentation you made, what really is your own personal assessment of our Nigerian foreign policy? Foreign relations, not foreign relations.
I believe our foreign relations, we have been working very hard as a people to ensure that we have good relations, good neighborliness. Currently, we do work hard at it. We do have some challenges. We do have challenges where we have not paid some dues and so forth. We have challenges with our foreign service. At the end of the day, It's about how we fix it and how we strengthen it, how we ensure that we continue to make it better with those who are out there serving in our foreign missions. All the challenges that have been listed here today from different senators, some I listed myself, all of those challenges are real. But there are probably some other challenges that we don't even know about. And will require me, if confirmed, to go into review with the team, look very deeply into all of the issues, and then with the team come up with the solutions and come back to you and engage with you.
As a member of the Foreign Relations Committee, during the 54th, I followed up our foreign service and observed that about 75% were either represented by churches of affairs or only ordinary staff. Does that have any negative effect on public relations, or was it in our interest because of financial constraints?
I cannot speak to that, sir, because I do not know all the conditions around that. But what I can say is that based on what you share and based on what I understand has been obtaining, definitely for sure financial constraints have been a factor. And it will require us, and as the Minister of Finance, not sure he's confirmed yet, but the Minister of Finance, definitely at the time we spoke, growing the Liberian budget and making sure the fiscal space is created for foreign relations is very important. And now, if I'm confirmed, I will be working with him to ensure that we increase the budget and make sure we have resources available for our foreign missions.
Madam Nominee, you will be administering the affairs of the First Ministry, thus serving as the Dean of the Cabinet, and will be expected to exemplify leadership, unity in ministries. Our past experience is Minister of Foreign Affairs for the past years have been called with disability. What assurance do you want? Can you give us here? That indeed yours will be a new day.
The assurance I can give you is the stellar performance I have had as a leader, leading teams, leading the UN development system, leading several entities, which you can liken to ministries, leading several, over 20 at a time, UN agencies operating in a country. And that experience of leading teams is what I will bring to the role if given the chance, if confirmed.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. Madam Nominee, we are consulting, and it will appear that some of our colleagues, or majority of our colleagues, are still energized for us to be here. So, as a very liberal chair,
Yes, Chairman.
My co-chair will ask questions. I will close the questioning. But before then, there are other senators still here. I have not asked. I want to remind you that. And I will be the last to ask questions. Senator Russell Chair, the chairman of Judiciary of the Senate, and then Senator Voto Kane, then Senator. What ended the chairman? Then Senator Yoko. She's running for Senator Chair, Russell Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Chairman, for the opportunity. Nominee, let me join or add my voice to those of my colleagues who congratulated you for your deployment. In the interest of time, because everybody is talking about shortening the time so that we do it all today, so that you don't have to come back. And I want to say thank you to the chairman for beginning to that. And so instead of 6 questions, I will reduce mine to 3. And I'll go straight to the question. My first question is, do you support the one-channel policy? Let me support the one-channel policy.
Honorable Senator, I support very strongly the rule of law in the one-channel policy as been codified in Liberia, and so I would uphold the rule of law and uphold the one-channel policy.
China has become a global power, both economically and militarily. And there has been this rivalry between China and our traditional ally, the US. A clash of interests in the world. Do you believe that we can have a strong dual relationship with China and the US? In other words, can we maintain a cordial, enduring relationship with the US and China at the same time?
Honorable Senator, I do believe that if we are focused on the interests of Liberia and Liberians, that we will work with whoever we need to work with, in the way we need to work with them, and engage them based on Liberia's interests and not getting involved in their bilateral relationships.
Okay, so lastly, Madam Nominee, you spoke about protecting and safeguarding our national interests. And I take a lot of interest in that. What is the definition, or your definition, of our national interest? And to what extent are you willing to go to protect our national interest? And even that means standing up to our traditional allies.
Our national interests are about Liberia being that Garden of Eden that she was birthed to be. Our national interest is about every Liberian boy and girl having the opportunity to reach their fullest development potential. It's about safeguarding our borders, making sure that we are safe at home, and that Liberians prosper in Liberia, that Liberians do not have to look for a visa to go outside in order to find prosperity. And that what Liberians have faced in past decades of being refugees and IDPs will never happen again. And anyone who can help us to achieve that, that will be our national interest.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're my son.
Thank you. Senator Silver. Senator Bodoka. They will move his name.
Good night. Madam Minister, during your representative, I saw the man's head shaking. So I want to say congratulations. You know, when the devil is dancing the right way, you can see it from the appearance of the spectators. I want to say thank you for presenting to us what we never expected. While people are crying out there for degree, we are looking at experience and competence. And we find all that in you. So I want to say once more congratulations. And I want to take this time to tell you that don't be like the minister, the former minister of Foreign Affairs, and don't go America without the president. I want you to go alone when you don't be out there for us. Thank you.
Don't feel compelled to respond to the applicant. I think I want more commendation. Senator Subway. Jonathan Subway.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Madam Nominee, let me commend you for your preferment. And quite honestly, I had a series of questions on your credential. However, your explanation and your performances has cleared all of those doubts. I must say. However, let me ask you this question, please. Just one. A few months back, the Liberian government signed to a document referred to as the Lusaka Accord, which, amongst other things, our country gave approbation to same-sex marriage. What is your take on that, man?
The question asked is a very important one that can only be answered by Liberian people. In order for Liberia to say you are going to allow same-sex marriage, you have to have a referendum where the people are going to see what they want. If you're asking me as an individual, I'm not coming to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to confirm as an individual. I'm coming here to carry out the vision of the president and also to ensure the interests of Liberian people. So I think a referendum will be necessary.
So, Madam, I ask you your take. You represent the Liberian people at the foreign ministry, if you should go there. But I'm asking you a question because we signed this agreement in Lusaka. It has not reached to the legislature to give it our application, but we have agreed to it. I'm asking you, what is your take on same-sex marriage? It's not a Liberian question.
I would really not like to bring my personal take because in public service, you're serving the interests of the people and you're serving at the will and pleasure of the president. So it will be the will and pleasure of the president's view. If you ask me as an individual, I have had the benefit of having a personal relationship with Jesus. And I'm a reverend, I'm a brother, I respect the rights of everybody, but I will not be the one that will be promoting same-sex.
I think you asked my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Senator Francis Zopo of River Chief.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, Governor, lawyers.
Yeah, before you proceed, as the protocol demands, we will recognize the presence of our colleague who just entered. We will accept introduction as the project demands.
Honorable Minister Designate, I am Senator Prince.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Chair. Distinguished Senators, our Foreign Minister Nominee, like many have asked on the regional engagement, the whole foreign policy of Liberia for the world. Since Snow, if you permit me to just bring back the question that you asked in relation to, not really a question, I think it was kind of an empathy that you expressed in relation to what happened at the embassy. I didn't hear the Minister Nominee talking about that. I'm concerned about, I know I quite know reciprocity, which is key to us getting what we deserve or what we give out. But the visa service, like you call it, is a service, okay, at the Bureau of Foreign Embassies here, most importantly the US Embassy. And I just want to say that it's important that you look into that, and our people be treated as though they are receiving services. Not just like the wonderful environment, but they are receiving services for fees and pay. What happened at the embassy facility there, in most cases, do not appear to be like they are receiving services. I think we should look into that. In the arrest, President Walker, the policy or the campaign platform is soon going to be the policy
the issue of tourism, like is mentioned here, is very important. I always look at the economics in our foreign service or the things we do as a people. When we issue the visa, for example, for $200, we get a consular fee that contributes to our revenue, especially for Africans. I also believe that when these Africans come to Liberia and they spend up to $4,000 US, at some point in time they are charged GST of 10%, that's $400. It means we will lose the $200 and $400 if we were visa free for Africans. That's the economic aspect of that, and that will expand our tourism sector. More beyond that point, Liberia being the first black republic, okay, in Africa, getting back from the Carbon Age point where black people will be made to come to the ACS to Africa to form their own home, a place for abode for black people, especially African. Don't you think it's important it will advise our government that we go to the true reason why we think we established the Republic of Liberia for the home of African? Then why should we allow African to pay for visa to come to Liberia? What do you think about that? It's just from the economic point of view, I think that you can raise $200, more than $200 beside visa. What do you think about that? The second part is that, just so I don't come back to the floor. Liberia played a very major role as per the question asked and your response to the senators here in the African Union. Liberia sit right before, Liberia embassy sit right before the African Union for the last 15 years plus. When you go to Addis, you still see the building look like as though like you have started before. All of the other properties surrounding are improved in our embassy stay in that form. Yet we are supposed to be leaders of Africa as a union. What do you make of that? How can we rebrand our foreign service at a critical point where the effort of the union is? Our embassy does not represent the others surrounding embassy there. Please speak to that. Thank you.
Thank you. I note on the point you made on visa service, I take note, I take your advice, I'm very serious there on the. I also want to just elaborate the point you made. You're 100% correct. Oftentimes we are short-sighted, looking for quick money for fees, and we don't look at the bigger picture. You can get thousands of dollars from a couple coming to do surfing in Cape Mount if you had no visa fees. And you would get less if you had visa fees. If you felt there's a restriction, it doesn't seem attractive, they don't want to come, you lose more. And so I would hope that we give the chance to serve, if confirmed. This is one of the things we'll be working on. How do we make Liberia attractive? Rebranding is not only about what we say, it's about what we show, it's about what we demonstrate, it's about how we project ourselves. It's everything from the way our buildings look, to the way our staff behave, to the way we project ourselves out in the international community. Rebranding holistically. And this is something that I look forward to doing if I get the chance to serve.
I know you said that you were thinking about the other roles, like the embassy issue with Addis. I understand we own that facility, and I alluded to own that facility, but it's been just been there for a very, very long time. And there are some other buildings around that have improved for the last 10 to 15 years in Addis, but yet Liberia still have the Turkmenistan embassy still there. So I thought if you would speak to that, or you can just take note of that. And so I don't come back to the floor. I'm the chair. I want to thank you for the time given me, and we've had enough interaction with our nominee. I pray for the good of Liberia. Thank you.
Yeah. So Senator Brown, Senator
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the dispensation allowed to non-committee members to interact with the nominee. I have, Madam, I have two basic questions, one on foreign policy, and the last on forward diplomacy. But let me first congratulate you for your preferment by the President, and to thank you so much for your presentations that you have done here. Let me, before I go to the two questions, let me have a starter. Since your nominations, you have been in news on the social media, some questioning your credentials, whatever. I'm not asking you to respond to all those. I want to know, how has this impacted you? How did it impact you as a person before appearing here today?
Thank you, Honorable Senator. To be very honest with you, the attacks have impacted me because I worked very hard under very difficult circumstances to be able to go back to school 2006, 2007 to get that degree. I worked hard. I worked very, very hard. It was very difficult with young children, having to take care of them, having to work, and all of that. It was very difficult to hear. What was most difficult to hear was attacks about my record in the UN, where I've been hailed and lauded and being called to come back, where people try to turn it around and be something different. It's been very difficult, but you know, it's no more difficult than what I face with the Houthis in Yemen. It's no more difficult than what I face in several settings where I've given great responsibilities, and I had to be resilient. I had to be focused, and I had to ensure that results were always at the forefront, and that doesn't change. At the end of the day, rebranding Liberia is a very difficult task. No matter what truth we tell about who we are, we've been known to be something different. When I was taking the decision to come home, and for me at that point, when you're faced with your mortality, let me please allow me to say this. When you're faced with your mortality and you think that you will not live another year or two, it does something to you. And you feel like life can end any day, and so you will do everything you want to do now, because nothing is guaranteed. And it's that drive, it is that tenacity that made me say, I got to go home and give my quota because I don't know when I will die. And so when you've done that, and you've participated, you've done the protective votes, and you're fighting for your Liberia, the nation you know you believe in, and your time at the sea Liberia, remember people told you, don't go, Liberia isn't ready for you. Don't go, Liberians are this and that. We say all the things I heard in the international community about coming home. But a lot of things I heard, I faced. But you know what? We have to face it and go through it in order to transform Liberia. And I'm here for the long haul to work with you all, for all of us to transform Liberia together to make it a better place where hate and venom and bullying and all the things we do will not be the commonplace. But transforming Liberia into a country where young people will understand how it is to compete in the international community, how it is to go out there and serve and work, the dignity of labor, creating jobs for them to be able to work while in school and learning how to come out and being able to face others to get jobs and be gainfully employed, to have their own families, and not to beg. I see that greater cause and purpose than I see the things that have happened to me in the last weeks. And for that, I'm grateful.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Madam. In order for us to conclude today, I think we have to shorten the response, especially the one that we're dealing with sending up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Let me go swiftly now to my two questions, and I want to act them at once. So please, if you can take note. The one is on foreign policy. Madam Minister, every country's foreign policy is based on its strategic interest. If confirmed, what would you recommend to His Excellency to be Liberia's strategic foreign policy objectives? That's number one. Two, Senator Chie, our teacher, before he left, he asked questions about the non-alignment. But that movement came about during the Cold War between the war superpowers. And those countries that did not want to be aligned with either of those powers formed what we call the non-aligned movement. President William R. Turnbull, the 18th president of Liberia, in the height of the Cold War, joined the non-aligned movement and declared Liberia non-aligned. We know the history, we know the aftermath, we know what happened, the consequences. But I want to say that Cold War politics seems to be normal again. We see the Russia-Ukraine war that has put countries wide apart. My question is, in the event of a full-scale Cold War politics, what would you advise the president as regards Liberia's diplomacy and international relations? Those are the two basic questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Senator. In relation to my advice to His Excellency President Hussein Mamboja as it relates to the foreign policy objective, my advice would be that we need to employ more of economic diplomacy, looking at how we increase trade, looking at African continental free trade agreement, looking at how we boost trade within on the continent, within the sub-region, looking at the regional integration and so forth. I'll look at development diplomacy, strengthening bilateral relations, forging new relationships, for example, Canada, Brazil, other countries where we have not had that development diplomacy, and looking at how we strengthen bilateral relations in that regard. Looking at how we engage a little bit deeper with countries where we engage now, but we look at it only from the perspective of support or aid. Looking at where we can go into different types of relationships. Our foreign policy objective, our relationship would be how do we get resources into the hands of Liberian people to make sure we lift people out of poverty, to make sure people can send their children to school and they can find food to eat. That would be my advice to Mr. President. Development diplomacy, economic diplomacy as a priority, and building on new partnerships as well. In terms of non-alignment, I listened to you and you are very right. You reflected very well on what has been and the threats we have now in terms of isolationism, where we were in a place of globalization and we're talking about one village. The world is one village. People are stepping away from that. Partners are stepping away from that. And we're seeing people going into themselves, looking internally at their own issues and interests. And in the case of a full-scale, what would Liberia's position? Liberia would need to be in a position where she has strategic relationships that will protect her own people. Liberia needs to be looking at strategic relationships that will be serving the interests of Liberian people and ensuring that it's not about non-alignment versus non-alignment. It's about engaging and partnering where necessary to protect Liberia's interests, especially national security interests.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Maguire.
Hello, please, Tyler.
Senator Maguire. Senator Charles, one more time, then Senator Tyler.
Nominee.
And then Senator Jara of Lofa County. And then before it comes to Senator Prince Johnson.
Nominee, thank you very much. It's been a very exhaustive day for you. Let me know my colleagues to thank you for your service to our country, represent our country very.
Senator Maguire, Madam Nominee, to warm up, right? Do you want to see who's on the press?
Thank you. I'll just ask two questions. I'll just ask two questions. Madam Nominee, let me say thank you. I know it's been a very emotional 1 week for you. For all the news you had. So I want to thank you for ably representing your nomination. You convinced a lot of people that this job you are capable to represent our country. I gotta ask, because most of the questions are already being asked, I want to ask two questions. One, trafficking in person. As you are aware, trafficking in person has become one of the major issues. It's an international issue. According to 2023 report, trafficking in person report from the U.S. State Department, Liberia made some significant effort to address trafficking as compared to previous years. When confirmed as foreign minister, how do you intend to protect this legacy and to promote Liberia's international and regional human rights issues? The second point I want to add is that just in one word, what would be Liberia funding? What would be the core principle of Liberia foreign policy?
Thank you for the point on trafficking in persons, Honorable Senator, and noted on the reflections that you gave me just now in terms of what has been achieved in the past years. The issue of trafficking in persons is something that I've had firsthand engagement with. I saw firsthand Liberian girls, West African girls, who thought they were going for a job in countries where I served in the Middle East and ended up that they were in a different situation. It's real. The situation is real, and I believe that working with security apparatus, working with others within the government, we can do a lot to contribute to this global issue, to mitigate it, and make sure, especially Liberians don't fall victim to trafficking, and that we support, the partnership with our security apparatus and so forth, efforts to mitigate it across the board. In terms of one word, core principle of our foreign policy engagement, one word. If I had to choose one word, the core principle will be transformational. We need relationships and actions and activities that will bring transformation. So of course it will be whatever we can do that will bring transformation for us as Liberians.
Chair, I use my question.
Thank you very much. So the Sarah's Bobo, then Senator Tyler now.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Nominee.
Chair.
Good afternoon. My name is Momo Cyrus. I chair National Security here at this particular institution and also Monrovia County. But I have a lot of last interest in this hearing as well of the work because of so many things. I wouldn't be able to say everything considering time, but a few, maybe 3 or 4. Firstly, when you were talking about your vision, did you mention development diplomacy?
Yes, I did. When I was answering one of the questions, yes, I did.
Okay, wonderful. So, I lectured the Foreign Service Institute of the Foreign Ministry. I'm a graduate of the Foreign Service Institute. When we were there, we took 1 year of training. But in the last few months, we were made to train people just for 3 weeks, 1 month, and 2 months at most, and they were given, opportunity to go serve in the Foreign Service. I didn't feel good about that because I know 2 months is not enough to train our Foreign Service officer. We want to look into that Foreign Service Institute to see that the writing is done so that people who are graduates, people who graduate represent us every in the international community. The Foreign Service Institute is very key. That is where most of our diplomats have been trained to represent us. We want to look at critically.
Good afternoon or good evening, Senator. Yes, for the question. I agree with you fully that it needs to be looked into, not only in terms of improving the quality of the training, but also looking at it in terms of continuing education and retraining and upgrading skills and so forth. So it's something that's a priority that will be looked into.
Thank you. So the issue of honorary counsel. Before I became senator, I was an honorary counsel for the Czech Republic in Liberia. But a lot of things happened when I said it. And that brings me to a passport. A lot of times, applicants went there with Liberian passport to have to get visa to go to the Czech Republic. But I was doing most of the background check here when the passport reaches me. When I make my own background check, most of them are not Liberians, and I don't know how those passports being deemed. I managed to engage the foreign ministry about it on many occasions, but I never got a good answer about it. So our passport is in the hands of too many wrong people. Interestingly, when I served as a regional commander for national security for my Grand Masters in the River State, when I served in county, before I left, I seized over 200 diplomatic passports. Interested the passport in the hands of Lebanese. The diplomatic passport I'm speaking about here. I'm talking about 2006, 2007, 2008. But it says, I still see people coming to the Czech Republic for visa, and they carry their diplomatic passport, and they're not Liberians. So do you want to investigate the origin of these fake passports? Is it due to the contract that we give to some Ghanaians, if I'm not mistaken? Is that where the leakage is coming from? Do they first got our database of our passport? Because the agency that's producing our passport resides in Ghana. And these fake passports are emanating from Ghana going to the Czech Republic. It's one of some security wise. Madam Minister, may you kindly check this we get confirmed as minister.
Thank you, sir. If I am confirmed, Senator, that will be something of a priority. I think in one of the discussions we had earlier, I even mentioned that it's a national security issue. The issue of passports is a national security issue. If not properly managed, our national security is threatened. And so if I'm confirmed, I hope to work with all of you to look at these issues. I cannot sit here today and categorically say I know all the leakage points or that I even understand the leakage points. I want to go in with the team that's already there and with others and do a review, do an assessment to understand it better and for us to be able to take critical decisions around ensuring that the national identity of Liberians is safeguarded. And that Liberians hold Liberian passports, including our diplomatic passports that are not in the wrong hands, not in the hands of foreigners and others who can abuse it and then minimize the privilege that we enjoy as Liberians.
Okay, so as the Madam Minister designate, I've been researching you since the whole convention taking. You had an offer with WFP sometimes in July of last to serve WFP. How did that go?
After I took my early retirement in June 2023, yes, I was contacted to go back to the UN. In 2 weeks' time, I was contacted to go back to the UN at the same level of Assistant Secretary General. At that time, I said no, and I asked them to please contact me again in February of 2024 if there would be something of interest to me that I would be interested in doing. If I could be at home and do it because I wanted to be home. And I was contacted in November and asked about another posting for Italy at the same level of Assistant Secretary General. And in November, I spoke with His Excellency Mr. President, and he told me they're interested in serving, and so I turned down that offer. I did say to them, if I can do it from home, let me know. If I can work from home, because we have flexible working arrangements these days. but they didn't respond to say that for what they wanted me to do, I couldn't do it from Liberia. I would need to go to Europe to do it in Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for the opportunity given me to cross-examine the nominee. Thank you.
Was that a promotional question?
The chairman can I proceed?
Senator Tyler of Bobby County.
After Tyler. After Tyler.
After Senator Tyler, Senator Prince Johnson of Lima. Senator Prince Johnson, Senator Joseph Jala of Lofa.
Nominee. For your preferment for splendid presentation this afternoon. I listened to your presentation. Peru's ambition system of pillars for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We both, I think, you understand both your responsibility and the challenges at the ministry. From listening to you, I believe you gave a clear-cut approach to how you assume your responsibility, how you face those challenges, and so I have no doubt. Anything you say. Why are you suited for the job? Because our colleagues have exhausted almost all the questions. You want to say congratulations? Order! That's not right.
That is left vote. You don't get control over your
Senator Pedro, Senator Tyler has the right to express what a committee will decide. And he's not the committee. But he has the right as a senator. Senator Prince Johnson of Lima and then Senator Joseph Jala of Lofa County.
your power get people out. No, after me, I'm afraid. Why are you talking?
Senator Prince Johnson.
You seem to be very brave today.
Let me manage you for your this one? Let me say thank to the President for your referment. You will be representing Liberia to carry out foreign policy of the Republic. You go out there and then you contact with investors in other countries to encourage them to come for tourism and to see me to bring businesses to Liberia. There are certain things that we want to see. So let me just ask you, what do you think when the government you will be representing? What do you want the government to do that will attract international investors? Come to Liberia. But you don't want to come in a country where there is corruption, where there is protest, demonstration, there's continents all over, people complaining, confusion. So, but what would you want to see? I want the government to attract foreign investors like Liberia. Because your country is not at peace, there are nonsense all over the place,